Okay, so good evening to Chairman, CET Trivandrum chapter. Many thanks for giving me this opportunity to share with you some important aspects about ocean resources. Thanks, before I forget, to Jayachandran for having given a very generous introduction. He has covered my entire time from the day I left college till the time I am sitting in front of you. So I'm going to have a presentation on harnessing ocean resources and how vital it is for our country. All of us have gone to a beach in our younger days and seen the vast expanse of water in front of us. I don't know how many of us have gone beyond just seeing the vast expanse of water, taking more interest in what happens in the ocean. Some of us, like me, may have gone into the sea as a part of our career. But today I'm going to speak to you not based on my naval experience, not based on my experience in Larsen Toubro as a shipbuilding company head. I'm going to speak to you on this vital topic because it holds a lot of promise for our country. And I've been pursuing this topic out of own interest in the last 7-8 years. So my aim is the next 40 odd minutes to explain to you or share with you what does the ocean offer us to the humanity in general and to India in particular. So with this, I start my presentation. Let's talk about a very few things. I'll run through the initial slides fast so that I can concentrate on the subsequent slides with more time. 70% of the oxygen which we have in atmosphere comes from the ocean because it is released by certain microorganisms which absorb the carbon dioxide and release oxygen. So it is very vital for us, for humanity to survive. The oxygen has to come from oceans. All of us know oceans moderate global climate. We have learned in social studies right from school days how equatorial region it is kept cooler and how the polar regions are kept slightly warmer from what they would otherwise be if the ocean currents are not flowing up and down. Ocean is a huge habitat for diverse marine life. Much of it forms our seafood, which comes from the oceans. There are huge employment opportunities for fisheries and tourism, etc., which is associated with oceans, and therefore it has got an impact on employment of people mostly staying in coastal areas around the world. By area, the 5 important oceans, which all of us know, cover 70% of Earth's surface. And out of the 195 countries, more than 150 countries have a seafront. Only 44 countries are landlocked, who don't have an access to sea. So whatever we are going to discuss is applicable to more than 150 countries, but I will be talking more about India-specific aspects of ocean resources. If oceans were not there, your world trade would have to depend upon very expensive way of transportation over land or by air. Today, 90% of world trade goes through oceans. So there's a huge role played by oceans as far as trade is concerned. And for us, the Indian Ocean is most important. The Indian Ocean covers 14% of the Earth's surface area. I have a little problem here because, okay, right. So you look at this map. I'm sorry. You look at this map, look at India and vast expanse of sea all around it, which makes the dominant area of the Indian Ocean very close to our coastline. So India and Indian Ocean, let us see some linkages. We are very inextricably linked to India by geography that I've shown in the map, as well as maritime history. Right from 2500 BC onwards, India or civilization India has been associated with maritime trade. They have been sending people abroad for religion and various other activities associated with maritime, including shipbuilding, ship repair, etc. They were not called ships those days. They were made out of wood. They were called by vessels. This activity flourished till 1500 AD, whereafter it slowly declined with the arrival of Portuguese, Dutch, and English navies. That history, I'm sure you must be well versed with. Despite this rich maritime history and endowed with superior geographical advantage where India just jets into Indian Ocean, we seem to have been born with sea blindness in 1947. And I will tell you why it is so. But before that, let me tell you, we have a coastline of 7,500 kilometers today, out of which 5,400 is in mainland and balance is with respect to the islands, which is an advantage because you've got such a long coastline and therefore you can have so much of seafront and trade and tourism and various other access to resources. What's the challenge for security? And we have got about 1,000 island territories. Some are as far located as 1,200 kilometers away. And their logistics support is critical for us. So that's India and Indian Ocean very briefly. So what happened after independence? For the first few decades after independence, the sea trade, growth of shipbuilding, maritime security, which was through Navy, development of ports, all were not very well coordinated by the government. We discovered oil with Russian help in Bombay High in 1974 and realized offshore assets can be a huge help to us, especially for oil, which was very critical for us. Even now it's very critical. So that from 1974 onwards, we were very sensitive to the fact that offshore assets have to be looked after. The Coast Guard was formed in 77, which helped in surveillance and support any environmental disasters. In 1982, the concept of EEZ, exclusive economic zone, up to a distance of 200 nautical miles. For benefit of audience, 1 nautical mile is 1.8 kilometers. So for 360 kilometers distance from our coastline, that area is coming under our EEZ, which is of economic interest to us. Everything which is there, you can exploit, which brought 2.3 million square kilometers area under our focus for economic exploitation. And since our land has not tapered off immediately after the coastline and it has remained flat towards the sea, there's a concept called continental shelf, which means your coastline is beyond, but now the water is above it. That permits you to expand your EEZ to up to 350 nautical miles from the present coastline, which brings another 1.2 million square kilometers additional for economic interest. So today, we have more ocean area to look after than land area. That's a very important point. We have more ocean area giving us economic resources for exploitation than the land area, be it islands plus mainland. Just for information, we have maritime boundaries with 7 neighboring states, out of which 6 are delineated and official and finalized. Only with Pakistan, it is still pending in the Kutch area. This is just for information. I'm not going more into that. We have over 15% of our population staying in coastal districts of 9 states. So every 6th person in India is associated with a coastal state and therefore is geographically close to a seafront. Now, let us see what are the vulnerabilities of this ocean. We have international shipping lanes very close to Indian coastline. I'll show the map. Unfortunately, attracting piracy and marine terrorism activities. So you can see in the map, these blue dots and green dots represent ships which are plying, and you see India's position, and a whole lot of ships are plying very close to our coastline. It goes around Sri Lanka and goes further to Malacca Straits, which brings in a lot of vulnerability from security point of view, which I told you about piracy and terrorism. A large number of our ports and coastal installations are naturally vulnerable because they are on the seafront, and therefore they require seaward protection. It's a vulnerability which we should flag. Poaching by fish by foreign powers, it happens. You must have kept reading in the newspapers. It is something which we have to be worried about. We have a large number of minerals, gas reserves, and energy resources in the seabed. You must have read this. In 1980s, when Indira Gandhi was Prime Minister, she had announced that we have these minerals and gas reserves in our seabed. We need to exploit it. And I'm going to cover this point in greater detail later. So it's a vulnerability because somebody else can come and take it if you don't look after it. 70% of world's natural disasters occur in this region around Indian Ocean. So we have vulnerable towards adverse weather conditions, which requires mutual assistance amongst the various nations which are in this area, which necessitates us to be very active on the maritime front, on humanitarian assistance front to other maritime countries of Indian Ocean region. And 1/3 the world's population is in Indian Ocean littoral states. Like 15% of our population is in coastal states. Indian Ocean littoral states have 1/3 world's population, which makes it a very busy place for trade, for tourism, etc. Now, what has our government done in the last 50, 70 years regarding oceans? First is India signed the UN Convention of Laws of Sea in 1982. Just for information, 168 countries have signed, but USA has not signed for many reasons. We joined the International Seabed Authority formed in 1994 by the UN, which has got 134 members. Notably, USA is not a member. And so this is a very important aspect, the International Seabed Authority. We'll talk more about it as we go further. We formed a dedicated Ministry of Earth Sciences in 2006 to coordinate with all stakeholders on ocean issues. So this central government ministry deals with all ocean issues. We have maritime cooperation through these associations, etc., which I mentioned. And harnessing of ocean resources, which I mentioned about some time back. We have seabed minerals, we have oil, we have natural gas, we have other resources. They all require to be fine-tuned. In India's latest international commitments during Paris Agreement of April 2016 and COP26 in Glasgow in November 21. We're going to talk a lot more on this, but I will show you this link where we have two major commitments to meet. The first box, which is bordered by yellow line, is we have to enhance renewable energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030. This is the international commitment which we have given. And why should we do it? I'll talk about it a little later. And we have to achieve net zero target by 2070. I don't know how many of you are familiar with what is net zero. I will briefly tell you. We all release carbon into atmosphere, carbon dioxide into atmosphere, be it by fuel, be it by activity, other economic activity, be it by industrial activity, etc. We release, but we don't recover much. If you have a lot of trees, then you will recover. But if you denude your forest, then you don't recover much. So if you have to get net zero, that means you have to recover as much as you release. So our aim is by 2070, we should recover as much carbon as much as we release. And where does the ocean come in this? We'll talk about it. So let me go back to the first box. Enhance renewable energy to 500 gigawatts. Today, we are just at 150 gigawatts. We need to enhance to 500 gigawatts, which means we should look at more solar power, we should look at more wind power, we should look at even hydro energies included in renewable energy. So we should have more hydro energy. We should have other forms of energy which can come from oceans. All this put together should come to 500 gigawatts by 2030. Will it happen? How it will happen? We'll talk. So now I come to the most important part of I give you a background about oceans, their vulnerabilities, their EEZ areas, and how crowded Indian Ocean region is, etc. But now I'm going to just focus on how we can get enough resources from the oceans for renewable energy and for net zero. Now, I'm going to talk about these two issues, which are currently very, very important aspects for our economy, for our growth. We need to grow, but we need to grow differently from now onwards to meet these two objectives. So let's go further. So oceans are significant to us. I'll just taking a summary of the first part of my presentation. Oxygen to atmosphere, habitat for marine life, I already talked about it. Natural resources, oil, gas, metals. Livelihood for many people, employment. Effect on climate, I already talked about it. Non-conventional energy can come from sea. Security on coast is an important issue which we need to be worried. They are very significant to us. Trade and logistics to islands, as well as on exports, imports, tourism, and freshwater storage. That's a new topic we'll talk about in the end. I'm going to talk only on these three issues which I've circled. Natural resources, non-conventional energy, and freshwater storage. The rest of the things are not a part of my ocean resources at this point of time, essentially due to limited time which we have for our interaction. So let's go forward. What are the natural resources? Seabed minerals, oil deposits, and methane deposits in hydrates. Seabed minerals you already know, in 1984 the government declared it. Oil deposits, you know, 1974 Bombay High came into operation. But I don't know how many of you know about hydrates. So let me quickly go through these three resources. Today, the world is in a transition to clean energy. And everybody wants to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels. And they want to develop new technologies by which non-conventional energy is used. Don't use petrol, don't use diesel, run your car on batteries, use natural gas as far as possible over diesel for power generation, use wind if possible, use solar as possible, so many things. But if you have to use all these forms of energy, which are cleaner, obviously you require a different set of materials to deal with various mechanisms, various actuating machinery, various electrical motors, various electrical batteries, and etc., etc. So while you're transiting to clean energy, we are also looking at how the necessary components or materials required for the clean energy will come to us. Where it will come? 3 billion tons of critical metals like nickel, copper, cobalt, manganese, zinc, lithium, aluminium are required for the new technologies. And what is the grand aim of Paris meet? Bring down the global temperature by 1.5 degrees. So if you want to get to their place, 3 billion tons of critical metals will have to be obtained by the various countries who are dealing with it. It's not only for India, for the whole world, this much of required. So India will have to have its share of metals coming from some resources. Land mining is one source, but land mining has adverse environmental factors. And anyway, India doesn't have much land mines for these metals. It has got few for nickel, few for copper, manganese, etc. But nickel, cobalt, and lithium, India does not have much, almost very, very small quantity. And therefore, it is somewhere else we have to go. Where do we go? But polymetallic modules are available on seabeds for us at different depths in our own EEZ, which we can claim. But today, I told you about the International Seabed Authority. He does not permit any country to mine its own EEZ. You cannot take from your EEZ. You can take it only for R&D purposes, but you cannot make it commercial till the International Seabed Authority gives permission. So you know these modules, polymetallic modules are lying there. You can establish capability to pick them up, but you cannot take it on a commercial scale. That is the situation as of today. ISBA has decided whatever is lying in EEZ can be harvested by the respective country as and when they give permission. 134 countries have signed this convention. Of course, USA has not signed it. One of the notable absentees from that. But similar metals are lying outside EEZ of some country or other. What will happen to them? They don't belong to any country. So ISBA has decided they will be common heritage of mankind. So what may happen after 1 year, 2 years, 5 years is ISBA will tell those who have got EEZ, you can take from your EEZ. Those which are lying outside any EEZ will be harvested by some central agency, and then they will become a resource for mankind. Now, how this will work out is something which is to be seen. Will somebody go there and pick up the modules and run away? Can it happen? Will some other country go underwater and pick up the modules without anybody knowing? Who will make sure the security is maintained? So all these aspects will have to be thrashed out by ISBA. But at this point of time, India has got access to its own EEZ. And as I mentioned earlier, our EEZ plus extra EEZ for continental shelf is more than the land area we have. So we got a lot of AEZ, which has got fair amount of resources. I'll come to the figure, and we should be able to take it out. How to take it out is the issue. It's a technical issue. I'll come to that. There's an organization by name NIOT Chennai, which is working on this. What they are surveying the various seabed, whether modules are lying there. So the system works like this. You can see they lower a huge pipe and they pick up through the help of a C4 collector. They pick up the slurry. They filter it in the ship, which is on the surface. The depth can be as much as 5,000 meters. And after they are picked up, they filtered out, the remaining filtered water is thrown back to sea. And what you have taken from the filter, you see what type of metal modules are there. Are they manganese? Are they nickel? Are they cobalt? Etc. etc. And by area, you do the mapping. But the most important thing is the capability to send a sea floor collector, which has to operate 5,000 meters below sea level, which is connected to a ship which is floating on the surface. So let us see more on the technology part of it. So India has been given a sample area. It's not a small area, 75,000 square kilometers. ISB has given to us in Indian Ocean. You do all your studies, you do all your R&D, you do your establishing capability at a site which is 2,500 kilometers away from Kanyakumari. And I will show the map. The depth there is 5,000 meters. So India's area is here, where I've shown a star. And just for information, China's area is here, almost at the tip of Africa. So these are the areas given by ISBA, which doesn't belong to any EEZ, but they said you can do your exploration, you can do your studies and establish, you can cut your teeth so that you get ready at a future date for mining your own EEZ. NIOT has carried out mining in this area through a submersible called ROSUB 6000, remote operated submersible. 6,000 specifies, it can go up to 6,000 meters. So I'll show the picture of that. Schematic is like this. There is this ocean research vessel which is on surface. There's an umbilical containing a fiber optic cable. It goes to a tether management system, which puts the reverse remote operated submersible on the seabed. Look at it, is lowered by a crane. It is an open cage construction. That means it's free flooding. It is not a box. It's an open box. Water can get inside from wherever it wants. Size is as given, 2.5 meters, 1.8, 1.5. It weighs 3 tons in air, but only 20 kgs in water, because partially it is offset by the water which has entered the free space and also by the buoyancy which it gets. It can bring about 150 kgs of payload back, whatever samples you pick up. Fiber optic connection is there from the ship to the reverse remote operation. It has been under trials from 2010. It has gone up to 5,900 meters. So this is a success story for Ministry of Earth Sciences, that they have been able to pick up samples, pick up modules from 5,900 meters successfully through this indigenously constructed but designed with the help of some foreign country. Thereafter, they developed a vehicle which can travel on seabed. Now, this is very interesting. When you want to drive a vehicle on a seabed, it shouldn't get stuck in the mud. So it has to just have pussyfooting on the seabed with very little weight on the seabed. So this is called locomotion trials, which has got special cushions, air cushions, and these locomotion trials have been done at 5,000 meters in April 21. This is how it looks. This is lowered from a ship into water. It can go, it has got robotic arms. There's another view of it, and pick up modules and connect it to the system, which will take it up to the stop. So huge deposit of polymetallic modules have been identified. It's estimated we have 380 million tons in our EEZ. That's lots of polymetallic modules, but we have to pick it up. And they contain various metals, as I mentioned earlier, but we can do it only after ISAB gives approval, which we don't know when it will come. Now, once it is taken and brought to land, it is polymetallic. The same module may have manganese, copper, zinc, etc. So you'll have to find a metallurgical process by which it can be separated through a refining process in some industry in India. So this is the state of seabed minerals. Now, if you have to do seabed minerals exploitation, you have to send equipment down below, pick it up. There would be some requirement for some equipment will malfunction. Somebody has to go and see. So you have to send people 5,000 meters below sea. So Ministry of Earth Sciences has started a project called Samudriyan. I'll talk more about it. It is a part of Deep Ocean Mission, which is a subset of Blue Economy. They can talk about this in Q&A session. And this was launched in November 21 for creating manned operations. All other earlier operations were unmanned. They were controlled from the ship on top. Now this is something for manned operations in the range of 5,000 to 6,000 meters. It can only take 3 people. They can only operate for 12 hours. So you go quickly down, examine through cameras and various other visual aids to see what went wrong in your operation, and then take a technical decision whether the mining can continue or it has to be abandoned or the equipment has to be retrieved back for repair. So that is the aim of this titanium sphere. I'll show you the picture of that. This is the titanium sphere, which has been made in India. And this is going to take 3 people inside, and it will be lowered into water. It is capable of some limited propulsion. It can go up to 5,000 meters. As I told you, it has got titanium, which is under about 25 mm thickness, is there for the shell. And it's a 25 mm shell thickness and 2.1 diameter. Very claustrophobic, I'm sure, for people who have to go in this, but they go for about 12 hours of operation to go and examine what went wrong. And they cannot come out of the sphere. They can only go and see and come back. So this is the aim of Samudriyan. The trials are in progress. It's not yet completed. And I'm sure one will get to read about it very soon. And this is an important capability which you have to build before starting your harvest of EEZ. So let us look at, I finished with sea minerals. We can talk about it later. Offshore oil, we all know about offshore oil enough. We have been doing it for the last 50 years, but today it meets only 15% of India's crude requirements. And it is reducing. You can see the graph. So soon you will have no more oil from Bombay High or from the East Coast, from Krishna Godavari Basin. So we will have situation that we will have only oil from abroad and very little from indigenous sources, be it on land, onshore, or be it offshore. Just for information, oil fields are 300 meters, which is far, far less than what you're talking about EEZ, and the East Coast is about 1,500 meters. Now, India has set a target to meet Paris meet commitments of non-fossil energy up to 40% you have to meet, which is 500 gigawatts. I told you some time back. So how to get 500 gigawatts? Naturally, we are not going to have indigenous oil, but we have to reduce foreign oil coming into India, but we have to find some other resources by which we can have alternate non-conventional energy. So I'm going to talk about it now. what is called hydrates. I would presume many people in the webinar audience are not familiar with what is a hydrate. So let me tell what is a hydrate. A large amount of methane, which have come from microorganisms in the ocean, have got trapped within a crystalline structure of water. But it is stable. This methane is stable in the water molecules under high pressure and low temperature. So if you look at, these are water molecules, but the gas molecules, green in color, are trapped amongst the water. If you can take out this gas molecule and bring it to top, then you get natural gas. But how to get it, we'll talk about it. So this is one source which is below water. It is found near continental shelf, in which India has the second largest reserve after USA. India is blessed with a large amount of methane hydrate along our continental shelf. This is the world map where methane hydrate is available. You look at India's position, we have got large amount of hydrates around our coast, and you can see all along the west coast, all along our east coast, we have hydrates in our EEZ. How to take it is the issue. We are estimated to have 1,900 trillion cubic meter of methane. It is an energy equivalent many times over what we require for the next few decades. So if we can take out the methane from those water molecules or large quantities of water molecules, then we are all right. How to take it out? We'll talk about it. Now, you can't just go and snatch it out like this, because then there may be some collapse of hydrates into the sea. So what is being done is there's a natural gas hydrates program in India now. It's going on for last 7-8 years. It's progressing R&D in collaboration with Japan, Canada, and US. How to take out methane from the hydrate. It is still not yet finalized how to take it, but I will share with you some small rudimentary aspects. When will the hydrates get exploited? When you have perfected your mechanism to extract. So R&D efforts, which I told you, which is in collaboration Japan, US, Canada, etc. You have to sequestrate. Now, I'll simplify the word. Sequestrate means take by force. You have to take methane by force and quickly replace it with liquid oxygen. Why liquid oxygen? I'll talk about it. So find a mechanism, an industrial process, which is yet to be fine-tuned in R&D lab. Take out methane and put liquid oxygen. In the process, what will happen is we have a win-win situation. We take out methane and take it to our land area and put back liquid oxygen, liquid carbon dioxide, which has come from atmosphere. So you collect carbon dioxide from atmosphere, liquidify it, take it to the bottom of the sea and put it in hydrate. Every country, which I talked about earlier, Japan, US, Canada, Europe, China, I have not mentioned China because we are not doing any R&D with China. They're all trying to find out how to take out natural gas from hydrates. If you do this, you will be able to take out carbon dioxide from atmosphere and get methane in return. And that is our step for net zero. Some time back, I told you net zero means return carbon dioxide as much as what you have released to atmosphere. So this is one way of getting net zero activity, and we hope we will be able to achieve net zero by 2070 if you're able to make hydrate exploitation in the next 10 years time. Well, that is where the energy is going to come from. And your ocean is a huge resource for, especially for India, which has got trillions and trillions of cubic meters of methane trapped in the hydrates. Non-conventional energy is very simple: offshore wind, wave, tidal. I'll run through it. World Bank study has said India has got a potential for nearly 200 gigawatts of offshore wind. And 200 gigawatts of wind energy totally, out of which 112 is from land and nearly 90 is from offshore. But offshore wind is 20% stronger. So your returns are better by way of energy if you can have offshore wind farm and connected up, looped up like this, and by an electrical cable, you're able to take it to land. Now, installation in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu is already planned. They're estimating it, looking at the mesoscale satellite data, which gives wind details, how much wind force, etc. And they're expecting 35 gigawatts in Gujarat, 35 gigawatts in Tamil Nadu. These are the important areas for us for offshore wind farm. And if you're able to do it, we'll get non-conventional energy from offshore farms, but it is 40% more expensive than on land. But it is more productive because you get more energy. So government is looking at it, how to fund it, some World Bank loan, etc. And also you lease the seabed to the private entrepreneur who's going to put a wind farm there. So those mechanisms are being worked out. And I want to tell you, Denmark has got 25% of its grid power from offshore today. So it is a proven technology, and European countries already started exploiting offshore wind farm, like I've shown in this photograph. Next, I come to wave energy, perennial, but expensive, risk prone, and the wave rises every time. It goes through a small opening and it rises, the generator runs, and when the wave falls, it runs in the reverse direction, but you have a mechanism by which a bidirectional rotation is taken care of, and you're able to produce wave energy. Another method is, it can be without water. You can push the air one way and the other way. Instead of water going through a motor action, you can have air going through it. These are two methods, and both these are being R&D now world over. In Vizhinjam, there was a project which has been there for, I think, quite some time, some 10, 12 years, or maybe 15 years. But the project gave only 150 kilowatt, and that also only during monsoon. It was not a success, but it has given a lot of insight on how one can, this is a Vizhinjam project photograph, which is now only lying as a relic in the coast. It has not been a success. Government is looking at least 40 gigawatts we should be able to generate as per IIT Madras. But IIT Madras also says minimum 10 gigawatts installation is required to be cost effective. So it's only R&D stage. India does not consider wave energy as a potential source for the 2030 target of 500 gigawatts. It is not included. So let's go to the next, tidal energy. It is again perennial. With the sea coming in to the estuary, you're able to make it go through a turbine and generator, reverse also when the tide goes out. It is there in some countries around the world. In India, it is possible only in Saurashtra coast, where the tidal variations are maximum, what is shown in red color. Rest of the places, the tidal variations are not much, so it won't be cost effective. So they are looking at very small quantity of around 8 gigawatts in Gulf of Cambay and Kutch. Technologies R&D state, high cost, not a part of our 2030 target. High cost is an impediment, all right. Now, I come to the last aspect of ocean. Storing water in ocean. I don't know how many of you have come across this concept. So let me just tell you about this. Rivers run off to seas, leading to waste of fresh water. All of us know it. Periyar runs away to sea, and a lot of fresh water goes to sea from Kerala. If we can trap it somehow, we'll have lots of fresh water available. Don't keep it on land, keep it in the sea by some method. If the water is not polluted by industries which are on the river bank or sewage, it can be utilized even for drinking purposes. In west coast of India, 10 rivers flow into Gulf of Kambat. We look at Indian map. Let me go back to that once again. If you go to Indian map, this is near Gujarat. 10 rivers come in this area, including Narmada River with some rerouting. So all this river water is falling here. And if you can build a dam from Maharashtra to Gujarat, which is about 30 kilometers by the sea, then all this water can be a trapped area for river runoff. For a period of time, it will become less salty, very little salty, and it will become almost fresh water. There are ecological aspects which have to be studied, but this is a concept which is being pursued by the Ministry of Earth Sciences. And they're looking at this 30-kilometer dam, which will provide overhead road link Maharashtra to Gujarat, and thereby save a lot of time in road transportation, save a lot of petrol, save a lot of energy for transportation, which will be a positive aspect. And also, it will have 10,000 million cubic meter of storage. Idiki, for example, is about 2,000 million cubic meter, but Idiki is 170 meters height at its storage maximum level. But in this place, the height will be much less, so it will be having a larger area. So survey work is in progress, ecological issues, environmental aspects are under study, and it is going to cost 90,000 crores. So all these are being studied by the government. So I come to my final slide on conclusion. Oceans offer abundant wealth of minerals. I told you, they're lying in the eastern seabed. We have to perfect the technology to pick it up. Work is going on. We have to wait for International Seabed Authority to give permission. When this happens, when both happen, we should be able to take it out and bring it to land. As far as oil is concerned, it is an old story. It is depleting. So I don't think we have to concentrate on oil anymore, because offshore oil as well as onshore oil, both are depleting. But natural gas from hydrates, trillions and trillions of cubic meters of methane is lying there. We have to get our technology for extracting it, rather sequestrating it, and putting liquid carbon dioxide in that process. That will help us to address our energy security, which is so vital for our sustained economic development. The minerals are required for new technologies which are dealing with green energy. The natural gas is required as a part of net zero effort by which liquid carbon dioxide can be put back. So all these technologies through ocean mining, manned submersibles are necessary. We are already on those missions. The last 10 years, Ministry of Earth Sciences has done some wonderful job. In the decades ahead, they have to fine-tune their ocean management along with what is required for green energy. That is 2030, 500 gigawatts. And the second objective, net zero by 2070. Our immediate task is 500 gigawatts from non-conventional energy, that's renewable energy. So India's economy in future and our contribution to global climate control would depend upon how you extract the wealth from your oceans, your seabed, which we have in abundance, as I have told you. So a lot of attention needs to be given by future technologists, future engineers, future economists, planners, leadership of the country to see how energy security, mineral security, and reliable renewable energy security are protected and how we can continue our sustained growth in economy. With this, I complete my presentation.